Welcome to InfoStream, your daily current. Unsure what to listen to? Turn to us for today's headlines. Stay informed. Nigeria's conflict is multifaceted and extends beyond religious divisions. Najib Razak received a conviction in the 1MDB trial. Zelensky announced new peace proposals after U.S. talks. Border clashes and diplomatic efforts are increasing tensions. Turkey is ramping up counterterrorism operations. The Butyagin case raises ethical and legal questions in Crimea. India's solar expansion creates a waste management problem. A U.S. judge prevented the detention of a social media activist. Jair Bolsonaro's surgery has political ramifications. The Kennedy Center renaming caused controversy and cancellations. Aceh faces a flood crisis due to government inaction. California experienced devastating storms with significant damage. Britain's deer population is growing rapidly. Rising exotic pet ownership is linked to energy costs. AI advice cautioned after a rescue incident. Nigeria's violence, a complex on religious targeting, recent reports highlight a multifaceted crisis in Nigeria, extending far beyond the simplistic framing of solely Christian casualties. While violence against Christians, particularly in northern communities, is undeniably a significant concern, the situation is deeply interwoven with broader security challenges, criminal activity, and ethnic tensions. The United States intervention, culminating in a strike against Islamic State-affiliated groups in Sokoto State, has drawn considerable attention, yet the underlying causes of the conflict remain complex. Numerous attacks have targeted both Christian and Muslim populations, with estimates indicating over 2,400 civilian deaths between January 2020 and September 2025, including 317 attributed to Christian targets and 417 to Muslim targets. These attacks are frequently perpetrated by criminal bandit groups and extremist organizations, such as Boko Haram's offshoot, ISKUP, alongside other radical groups like Ansaru. These groups exploit existing vulnerabilities, including land disputes, economic hardship, and weak governance, fueling instability. The U.S. designation of Nigeria as a country of particular concern reflects concerns about religious freedom violations, but the Nigerian government maintains that the situation doesn't reflect its national reality. Key figures, including former Senator Shehu Sani, emphasize that true security rests on national unity, rejecting external intervention. The conflict's roots are not solely religious. They are deeply embedded in socio-economic factors and regional dynamics. While the U.S. strike aims to disrupt terrorist operations, a sustained, comprehensive approach addressing the root causes of violence is crucial for long-term stability. The crisis underscores the urgent need for a holistic strategy involving security, governance, and community engagement to mitigate the complex challenges facing Nigeria. Najib Razak convicted in largest 1MDB trial. Political fallout continues. A former Malaysian Prime Minister Najib Razak has been found guilty of abuse of power and money laundering related to the multi-billion-dollar One Malaysia development Berhad's 1MDB scandal, marking the culmination of a 7-year legal battle and a significant political development in Malaysia. The conviction stemmed from the misappropriation of nearly 2.3 billion Malaysian ringgit, 569 million from the 1MDB fund, a scandal that implicated numerous individuals and entities globally. Najib, already serving a 6-year sentence for a separate embezzlement case involving 42 million ringgit from SRC International, was found guilty on 4 counts of abuse of power and 21 counts of money laundering. The judge highlighted an unmistakable bond and connection between Najib and the fugitive financier, Joe Low, who acted as Najib's proxy and intermediary in 1MDB affairs. Evidence revealed Najib's belief that funds deposited into his account were donations from the Saudi royal family, a claim dismissed as implausible and likely forged. The trial exposed a complex web of financial transactions, with investigators estimating that 4.5 billion was stolen from 1MDB, with over 100 billion allegedly flowing into accounts linked to Najib. While Najib has consistently denied wrongdoing, arguing he was misled by 1MDB officials, the courts found compelling evidence to the contrary. He faces potential maximum jail terms of 15 to 20 years on each charge, alongside significant fines. Following the verdict, Najib's attempt to serve his sentence under house arrest was rejected, further intensifying tensions within Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's coalition government. The United Malays National Organization, UMNO, Najib's party, expressed disappointment and anger regarding the denial of house arrest. Anwar Ibrahim called for calm and urged acceptance of the court decision. The case has had profound repercussions, contributing to the Barisan National Coalition's historic election loss in 2018, and continues to test the stability of Malaysia's current governing coalition. The ongoing investigation and legal proceedings represent a critical step in addressing corruption and holding accountable those involved in the MDB scandal, despite lingering concerns about continued corruption within the country. Zelensky hails new peace ideas following U.S. envoy talks. Recent diplomatic efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war have seen positive developments, primarily driven by discussions involving Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, U.S. envoys Steve Witkoff and Jared Kushner, and Russian counterparts. Zelensky expressed optimism following a nearly hour-long call with the U.S. team, stating it yielded new ideas regarding peace formats, meetings, and timing. He plans further meetings with Donald Trump and continues discussions with Rustem Umerov, the country's top negotiator. A 20-point peace plan, agreed upon by Ukrainian and U.S. officials in Florida, is being refined, with Zelensky describing it as 90% ready. This plan, initially drafted by Witkoff, was criticized for favoring Russian demands, but has been scaled down to a 20-point document. The plan involves Ukraine withdrawing troops from parts of the Donetsk region, with Russia subsequently mirroring the withdrawal to establish a demilitarized zone. Security guarantees from the United States, NATO, and European countries are central to the negotiations. Zelensky emphasized the need for Ukraine to pull back troops from areas of the Donetsk region and stressed the importance of a reciprocal withdrawal by Russia. Progress has been made through a series of meetings, including those between Umerov and Kremlin envoy Kirill Dmitriev, and subsequent talks between Zelensky and the U.S. team. Despite this, a formal agreement remains elusive. Russia continues to demand Ukraine abandon its NATO aspirations and fully withdraw from the Donetsk and Luhansk regions, collectively known as the Donbass. Ongoing attacks by Russia, particularly on Odessa, have underscored the continued conflict. Ukrainian forces have retreated from Siversk, while Ukrainian security services have intensified drone and sabotage operations targeting Russian military assets. Zelensky has heightened alert levels and urged increased intelligence work. U.S. envoys, including Kushner and Witkoff, are actively engaged in the negotiations, alongside Russian counterparts. Despite the ongoing exchanges, a definitive resolution remains distant, with both sides holding firm to their core demands. The situation remains dynamic, with continued diplomatic efforts and military actions shaping the trajectory of the war. Border clashes and diplomatic efforts intensify amidst rising tensions. A recent escalating border clashes between Thailand and Cambodia, coupled with diplomatic efforts to establish a ceasefire, are dominating the news landscape. Fighting resumed earlier this month following a fragile July ceasefire, resulting in at least 41 deaths and the displacement of nearly 1 million people. The Thai Air Force conducted air strikes on the Cambodian province of Banteay Meanchey, targeting a fortified military position, while Cambodia accused Thailand of indiscriminate attacks. Amidst the ongoing hostilities, Trip.com Group, a major Chinese online travel agency, suspended its partnership with Cambodia's tourism authority due to heightened safety concerns among Chinese travelers regarding potential scams and border clashes. This suspension followed embassy warnings about digital scam centers and a subsequent online backlash. Trip.com emphasized the partnership did not involve data cooperation or privacy disclosures and completed a successful 25 network data security risk assessment. Cambodia is actively pursuing visa-free tourism for Chinese citizens, aiming for 1 million visitors in 2025. The Cambodian Defense Ministry clarified that Defense Minister T. Saiha's letter, intended to encourage a cessation of hostilities, did not constitute a formal ceasefire declaration. The letter, sent unilaterally and without prior consultation, proposed a return to pre-clash positions, a matter currently under consideration within the General Border Committee, GBC. The Asian Observer Team, AOT, will attend the full GBC meeting tomorrow to ensure transparency. Thai armed forces remain on high alert despite reported easing of clashes. Discussions are ongoing at the secretariat level within the GBC framework at the Ban Phek Kat permanent border crossing. The success of these negotiations hinges on Cambodia's actions, according to Thailand. Both sides are engaged in intensive talks, with a further joint session scheduled for today to reach clearer conclusions. The AOT's presence underscores the commitment to transparency throughout the process. Turkey's intensified counterterrorism efforts ahead of holidays, Turkish authorities have conducted a nationwide series of coordinated raids, resulting in the arrest of 115 suspected ISIS members in the lead-up to Christmas and New Year. These operations, announced by the Istanbul Prosecutor's Office on Thursday, targeted individuals allegedly involved in planning attacks within Turkey during the holiday period. A total of 137 arrest warrants have been issued following investigations that revealed ISIS operatives were preparing to target the country, specifically focusing on non-Muslim individuals during the festive celebrations. The investigation uncovered communication between the suspects and areas of conflict associated with ISIS activities. Simultaneous arrest, search, and seizure operations were executed at 124 addresses, yielding the seizure of firearms, ammunition, and classified organizational documents. Despite the successful apprehension of 115 individuals, 22 suspects remain at large, and ongoing efforts are focused on their apprehension. This heightened security posture reflects Turkey's established practice of implementing extensive counterterrorism operations surrounding end-of-year holidays. This strategy has been particularly pronounced since the devastating 2017 ISIS attack on the Reyna nightclub in Istanbul, a New Year's Eve celebration that resulted in numerous fatalities. The current operations demonstrate Turkey's continued commitment to safeguarding its citizens and preventing future terrorist incidents. Authorities have stated that further details will be released as the investigation progresses, emphasizing the seriousness of the threat and the proactive measures being taken to address it. The ongoing operations underscore Turkey's vigilance and dedication to maintaining security during vulnerable periods. Butyagin Casey Ethical and Legal Dilemmas in Crimean Archaeology. The arrest of Alexander Butyagin, a Russian archaeologist, in Poland raises complex ethical and legal questions surrounding archaeological activity within the occupied Crimean Peninsula. Butyagin, a senior researcher at St. Petersburg's Hermitage Museum, has been excavating at the Myrmikian site, a 6th century BC Greek settlement, since 1999, predating Russia's 2014 annexation of Crimea. He is accused of illegal excavations and illegal partial destruction of the archaeological complex by Ukrainian authorities. The core of the controversy lies in the fact that Butyagin's work continued after Russia's seizure of the territory and without Ukrainian authorization. The Second Protocol to the Hague Convention for the Protection of Cultural Property in Armed Conflict prohibits archaeological excavations without permission during conflict, a violation Butyagin is accused of committing. Despite accusations of looting and taking artifacts to Russia, Butyagin and the Hermitage insist his work adheres to international norms, arguing that Russian archaeologists have no avenue for Ukrainian permits. They maintain that all findings remain in Crimea and are transferred to the Eastern Crimean Museum in Kerch, though this practice also violates Ukrainian law, as discoveries must be part of Ukraine's museum fund. Several European courts have previously resisted Ukraine's extradition requests for Russians, citing concerns regarding politically motivated persecution, fair trial violations, and potential mistreatment of detainees. The case echoes similar situations, as demonstrated by Denmark's Supreme Court ruling against the extradition of a Russian national suspected of espionage. Evelina Kravchenko, a senior researcher at the Institute of Archaeology of the National Academy of Sciences of Ukraine, emphasizes that Butyagin's actions constitute a violation of the Hague Convention, stemming from conducting excavations under conditions of armed conflict. The conflict underscores the challenges of balancing archaeological research with geopolitical considerations and international legal frameworks. The situation highlights the ongoing struggle to protect cultural heritage in areas of active conflict and the complex legal interpretations surrounding archaeological activity within occupied territories. India's solar boom, a growing waste management challenge. India's rapid expansion of solar energy, now the world's third largest producer, is increasingly shadowed by a significant and largely unaddressed waste management problem. Driven by government subsidies and widespread adoption, solar installations encompassing vast solar parks and rooftop systems have dramatically reduced reliance on coal. However, the life cycle of solar panels, typically lasting 25 years, presents a future challenge. Current estimates suggest that by 2030, India could generate approximately 600,000 tons of solar waste, rising to over 11 million tons by 2047, primarily due to the increasing volume of installations from the mid-2010s. Despite the recyclable nature of solar panels, glass, aluminum, silver, and polymers, the presence of toxic metals like lead and cadmium poses a serious environmental risk if mishandled, potentially polluting soil and water. Currently, India lacks dedicated funding and a sufficient number of recycling facilities, with only a few small operations capable of processing old panels. The projected waste volume necessitates approximately 300 dedicated recycling facilities and an investment of $478 million over 2 decades. Global trends mirror this situation, with the US and China also anticipating significant solar waste generation. The US anticipates 170,001 million tons by 2030, while China is projected to generate nearly 1 million tons. Regulatory approaches differ. The US relies on a market-driven system under state rules, while China and India are still developing regulatory frameworks. India has begun to incorporate solar panels into e-waste regulations, placing responsibility on manufacturers for collection and recycling, but enforcement remains inconsistent, particularly for smaller installations comprising 5–10% of the total. These smaller panels, often damaged or discarded, frequently end up in landfills or with unauthorized recyclers, increasing the risk of hazardous material release. The BBC has contacted the Indian Renewable Energy Ministry for comment. The situation underscores the urgent need for robust recycling infrastructure and effective regulatory oversight to mitigate the environmental consequences of India's solar energy transition. U.S. judge blocks detention of British social media campaigner. A U.S. judge has issued a temporary restraining order, blocking the detention and potential deportation of Imran Ahmed, the chief executive of the Center for Countering Digital Hate, a British social media campaigner and U.S. permanent resident. The legal action was initiated by Ahmed following the Trump administration's decision to deny him a U.S. visa, accusing him and 4 other individuals of attempting to pressure tech platforms into censoring free speech. Secretary of State Marco Rubio publicly criticized the group's activities, alleging they were orchestrating efforts to punish American viewpoints they oppose. Ahmed filed a lawsuit against Rubio and U.S. Attorney General Pamela Bondi, arguing the visa denial was unlawful given his status as a green card holder with a wife and child residing in the United States. Judge Vernon S. Broderick granted Ahmed's request for a temporary restraining order, preventing the government from detaining him without a hearing. The judge's swift action highlights the legal challenge to the administration's policy of denying visas to individuals critical of tech companies. The State Department defended its position, asserting that the U.S. is not obligated to allow foreign aliens to reside within its borders. Ahmed's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, emphasized the importance of upholding due process, stating that the government cannot simply deport a green card holder based on disagreement with his work. The Center for Countering Digital Hate has faced scrutiny, including a lawsuit from Elon Musk's X, formerly Twitter, following reports on rising hate speech on the platform since Musk's acquisition. Despite the dismissal of the lawsuit, an appeal is still pending. The case underscores the ongoing tensions between the U.S. government and organizations monitoring online content, particularly regarding freedom of speech and censorship concerns. The judge's decision represents a significant legal hurdle for the government's strategy of restricting access to the U.S. for individuals with dissenting viewpoints. Jair Bolsonaro's surgery and political implications. Former Brazilian President Jair Bolsonaro underwent a successful surgery for a double hernia while incarcerated, a development that significantly impacts the upcoming 2026 presidential race. Following the surgery, Bolsonaro formally endorsed his eldest son, Flavio Bolsonaro, for the presidential candidacy, solidifying a key element of his continued political influence. The Supreme Court authorized the transfer of the 70-year-old former president from the federal police headquarters to a hospital in Brasilia for the procedure. Bolsonaro is currently serving a 27-year sentence for his involvement in a plot to overturn the 2022 presidential election results, which saw him defeated by Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Flavio Bolsonaro, a 44-year-old senator and leader of the Liberal Party, had already announced his intention to run for president, citing his father's trust in him to continue our national project. However, the handwritten letter read aloud by Flavio outside the hospital confirms Bolsonaro's explicit support, dramatically strengthening the younger Bolsonaro's position. The letter highlighted Bolsonaro's long-standing dedication to defending what he perceives as the best interests of Brazil, framing his endorsement as a final act of familial support. The situation is further complicated by ongoing efforts to reduce Bolsonaro's sentence. Congress recently passed a bill proposing a significant shortening of his sentence, but President Lula has vowed to veto it. Despite this, Bolsonaro retains considerable political sway, particularly within the Congress. The events surrounding the 2022 election, including Bolsonaro's refusal to accept the results and the subsequent storming of government buildings by his supporters on January 8, 2023, remain a crucial backdrop to the current political landscape. Lula has announced his plans to run again in the 2026 election, setting the stage for a potential rematch between the two former presidents. Bolsonaro is expected to return to the federal police headquarters following the completion of his hospital stay. Kennedy Center renaming sparks controversy and cancellation. A lawsuit has been filed by Democratic Representative Joyce Beatty, seeking to overturn the recent renaming of the John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts to the Trump Kennedy Center. Beatty, a designated board member, argues the change is illegal, asserting it requires an act of Congress, citing concerns about the board's composition filled with President Trump's allies. Beatty revealed she was muted during a meeting where the controversial name change was discussed, highlighting her opposition. The White House defended the renaming, claiming Trump's actions strengthening the center's finances, modernizing the building, and eliminating divisive woke programming warranted the change. They declared the renaming a historic move, signifying a new era of success and prestige. Following the addition of President Trump's name to the building's facade and the website logo, musician Chuck Red canceled his annual Christmas Eve jazz concert at the Kennedy Center, a tradition spanning nearly 2 decades. Red's concert, known as Jazz Jams, had been held annually since 2006. The decision reflects widespread criticism, particularly within Washington, D.C., where the center holds significant historical importance. The renaming has raised concerns about the potential for political influence over cultural institutions. The White House emphasized Trump's positive contributions to the center, while Beatty's lawsuit underscores the legal and ethical challenges presented by the unprecedented shift in the Kennedy Center's identity. The situation highlights a clash between political power and the preservation of a landmark institution, creating a significant disruption within the cultural landscape of the nation's capital. Aceh flood crisis highlights government inaction and international concerns, and Indonesia's Aceh province is grappling with the devastating aftermath of recent floods, triggering widespread anger and a desperate plea for international assistance. Triggered by a rare cyclone in November, the floods, compounded by damage from the 2004 Boxing Day tsunami, have displaced hundreds of thousands and claimed over 1,000 lives. The situation is exacerbated by a slow and reactive response from the Prabowo Subianto administration, which has resisted accepting foreign aid despite the severity of the crisis. Critics have labeled the administration as disorganized and out of touch, mirroring concerns surrounding its flagship free school meals program, which faced controversy over food poisoning incidents. Protests erupted across Indonesia over unemployment and rising costs, further highlighting public dissatisfaction. Residents are raising white flags, traditionally a symbol of surrender, as a distress signal, demanding attention from the international community. The administration's refusal to declare a national disaster has hindered access to emergency funds and streamlined relief efforts. Despite disbursing 60 trillion rupiah, 3.6 billion for reconstruction, aid delivery remains slow, and many communities remain isolated due to damaged infrastructure. Survivors report widespread sickness, starvation, and a struggle for basic necessities. The crisis echoes the 2004 tsunami's impact on Aceh, a region already scarred by decades of civil war. Locals express frustration that relief arrived more quickly after the 2004 disaster, despite its greater scale. Several countries, including the UAE, have offered aid, but these deliveries have been recalled by Indonesian authorities, citing guidance from the central government. The situation is intensifying as residents face bleak prospects, battling for survival amidst mud and floodwaters. The administration's inaction has fueled international concern and underscored the urgent need for effective disaster response and assistance in Aceh. California faces devastating storms, 3 dead. Widespread damage. Weather conditions across California have resulted in 3 fatalities and widespread damage as torrential rainstorms continue through Friday. The atmospheric rivers originating from the tropics have brought unprecedented rainfall, exceeding 11 inches in Los Angeles County, triggering numerous flash flooding events and mudslides. Governor Gavin Newsom has declared a state of emergency in Los Angeles and surrounding Southern Californian counties, alongside Mayor Karen Bass, who issued urgent warnings to residents to exercise extreme caution on roads during the busy holiday travel period. The first death occurred on Wednesday morning when a 64-year-old man in San Diego was killed by a fallen tree. Subsequently, a 74-year-old man perished over the weekend while attempting a rescue from floodwaters in Redding, and a woman in her 70s died after being swept into the ocean at Macaricher State Park in Mendocino County due to a large wave. These incidents highlight the dangerous conditions and the urgent need for residents to heed safety warnings. Flash flood warnings are in effect for areas, including the San Francisco Bay Area, while evacuation warnings have been issued for San Bernardino County. The storms have caused significant disruption, including the closure of major roads and the loss of power to approximately 100,000 people. The situation is particularly concerning due to the increased travel volume during the holiday season. Contributing to the severity of the storms is the impact of wildfires that have stripped vegetation in areas like Altadena near Los Angeles, reducing the land's ability to absorb rainfall and exacerbating the risk of mudslides. The Weather Prediction Center continues to monitor the situation, predicting further flash flooding events and potential impacts on larger rivers. Emergency responders are actively engaged in rescue operations, and authorities are urging residents to prioritize safety and avoid unnecessary travel. The ongoing storms represent a serious threat to the state's infrastructure and public safety. Britain's expanding deer problem, a growing deer population across Britain, is causing significant economic, social, and environmental challenges, prompting calls for more effective management strategies. Deer numbers have skyrocketed over the last 40 years, now estimated to be around 2 million, largely due to a post-World War I collapse of park boundaries and a lack of natural predators. This expansion is resulting in widespread damage to farmland, woodlands, and roads, with significant losses for farmers and businesses. The core issue stems from a combination of factors, including the absence of natural predators, a lack of hunting pressure, and the expansion of deer parks. While the 1991 Deer Act provides protections for wild deer and allows for culling, inconsistent management practices across different landowners exacerbate the problem. The government is now recognizing the scale of the issue and exploring options for sustainable management, including potential reintroduction of apex predators like wolves and lynx, though this faces considerable opposition. Several approaches are being considered, ranging from increased culling and fencing to non-lethal methods such as contraceptive darting. The Scottish government is currently developing a new law to address deer numbers in areas facing climate and biodiversity crisis, emphasizing a voluntary partnership with land managers. Lucy Manthorpe's farm in Suffolk exemplifies the positive impact of proactive deer management, with barren land now flourishing with wildflowers and rare trees. Despite the challenges, there is growing recognition of the potential benefits of wild deer, particularly in terms of sustainable food sources and their role in promoting biodiversity. The government offers support and grants to land managers, and the BDS advocates for humane and sustainable deer management practices. While the issue is complex and requires a coordinated approach, the case of Manthorpe's farm highlights the possibility of restoring damaged landscapes through effective deer management. The situation is particularly pronounced in Scotland, where ambitious rewilding projects are exploring the potential of apex predators alongside traditional culling methods. Ultimately, the long-term solution likely involves a combination of strategies, tailored to specific landscapes and communities, to ensure a balance between human needs and the preservation of Britain's natural heritage. Rise in unwanted exotic pets linked to Energy Coast's, a Highland-based charity, Scottish Exotic Animal Rescue, is reporting a significant increase in the number of unwanted exotic pets being relinquished due to escalating energy costs. The organization, which houses up to 100 animals at any given time including snakes, lizards, and insects, has observed a troubling trend of owners unable to maintain the specialized environments required by many exotic species. Chairman Chris Evans highlighted that the primary driver of this surge is the financial strain placed on pet owners by rising energy bills. Many exotic pets originate from warmer climates and necessitate artificial heating to meet their specific temperature needs. These animals frequently require heat lamps and specialized lighting, resulting in substantial energy consumption. For instance, bearded dragons necessitate nighttime temperatures of around 22 degrees Celsius, while certain tree frogs require a minimum of 32 degrees Celsius for at least 12 hours daily. The charity's intake of snakes has also increased. The surge in unwanted pets coincides with a sustained period of rising global energy prices, beginning with the economic recovery following COVID-19 lockdowns in 2020, exacerbated further by Russia's invasion of Ukraine in February 2022. While energy prices have decreased since summer 2023, they remain above pre-crisis levels. Ofgem's recent announcement of a slight price increase in January underscores the ongoing financial pressure. Chris Evans emphasized the growing severity of the issue, noting that many individuals are now unable to afford the upkeep of exotic pets they previously could manage. He strongly advises prospective owners to conduct thorough research and consider alternative pet options. The charity actively encourages individuals to provide homes for rescued animals, acknowledging the challenging circumstances faced by many exotic pet owners due to the persistent energy crisis. The organization's work highlights the complex intersection of animal welfare and economic hardship within the UK. AI-tied advice caution following rescue incident. Recent events highlight the potential dangers of relying solely on artificial intelligence, particularly for critical decisions like planning outdoor activities. A significant incident involving individuals using ChatGPT to determine tide times for a Boxing Day swim near Tenby, Wales resulted in a rescue by the Coast Guard and HM Coast Guard. The individuals, after misinterpreting the AI's incorrect tide predictions, became stranded on Sully Island. This incident echoes warnings from tech industry leaders, including Google's CEO, Sundar Pichai, who emphasizes the propensity for AI models to produce inaccurate information. The rescue underscores the importance of verifying AI-generated data, particularly in situations where accuracy is paramount. Multiple sources, including the UK Hydrographic Office's Easy Tide and the Met Office's service, offer reliable tide information, contrasting with the AI's flawed response. ChatGPT's repeated inaccuracies, even after multiple attempts, demonstrate the limitations of current AI technology. Furthermore, the rescue of two inexperienced walkers attempting to hike Cader Idris near Dulgello, Wales, reveals another critical concern. The individuals utilizing AI for weather checks and equipment suggestions found themselves in distress during Storm Amy. Despite their preparation, a lack of experience led to a misjudgment of the situation, highlighting the need for human expertise in interpreting weather data and assessing risks. The Aberdeen search and rescue team successfully intervened, demonstrating the value of local knowledge and seasoned judgment. The incident serves as a cautionary tale, urging users to treat AI as a supplementary tool, not a definitive source of information, especially in potentially hazardous environments. Sam Scarn-Blackhall, chair of Tembe Sea Swim Association, stresses the importance of listening to local professionals and acknowledging the hidden dangers associated with tidal beaches. Ultimately, the events underscore the need for careful consideration and critical thinking when utilizing AI, emphasizing that human experience and judgment remain essential for safe outdoor adventures.